Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Damanatira Vanachari. Jamunatira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Namane Namaste Saraswati Devi Gaurvani Pachane Nirvasesa Sunyavade Paschata Vesatarne Amagana Timundasya Gadanjana Shalakaya Chakshula Militam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapidam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamayam Tatati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Tapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavam Scha Shri Rupam Sagarjatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savatutam Pradeshna Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitam Scha. So we're going to read a little bit from Bhagavad-Gita. I'm sure most of you know what Bhagavad-Gita is. Song of God. I'm going to read from chapter 8, text number 3. Shri Bhagavana Vacha Aksharam Brahma Paramam Svabhavo Tattvam Uchate Bhutabhavo Bhava Karo Visargo Karma Sangita. Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, the indestructible, transcendental living entity is called Brahman, and his eternal nature is called Adhyatma, the Self. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma, or fruitive activities. Purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Brahman is indestructible and eternally existing, and its constitution is not changed at any time. But beyond Brahman, there is Para-Brahman. Brahman refers to the living entity, and Para-Brahman refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The constitutional position of the living entity is different from the position he takes in the material world. In material consciousness, his nature is to try to be the Lord of matter, But in spiritual consciousness, Krishna consciousness, his position is to serve the Supreme. When the living entity is in material consciousness, he has to take on various bodies in the material world. That is called karma, or varied creation by the force of material consciousness. In Vedic literature, the living entity is called Jivatma and Brahman, but he is never called Para-Brahman. The living entity, Jivatma, takes different positions. Sometimes he merges into the dark material nature and identifies himself with matter, and sometimes he identifies himself with the superior spiritual nature. Therefore, he is called the Supreme Lord's marginal energy. According to his identification with material or spiritual nature, he receives a material or spiritual body. In material nature, he may take a body from any of the 8,400,000 species of life, but in spiritual nature, he has only one body. In material nature, he is manifest sometimes as a man, demigod, animal, beast, bird, etc., according to his karma. To attain material heavenly planets and enjoy their facilities, he sometimes performs sacrifices, yajna. But when his merit is exhausted, he returns to earth again in the form of a man. This process is called karma. The Chandogya Upanishad describes the Vedic sacrificial process. On the sacrificial altar, 5 kinds of offerings are made into 5 kinds of fire. The 5 kinds of fire are conceived of as the heavenly planets, clouds, the earth, man and woman. And the 5 kinds of sacrificial offerings are faith, the enjoyer on the moon, rain, grains, and semen. In the process of sacrifice, the living entity makes specific sacrifices to attain specific heavenly planets, and consequently reaches them. When the merit of sacrifice is exhausted, the living entity descends to earth in the form of rain, then takes on the form of grains, and the grains are eaten by man and transformed into semen, which impregnates a woman, and thus the living entity once again attains the human form to perform sacrifice, and so repeat the same cycle. In this way, the living entity perpetually comes and goes on the material path. The Krishna-conscious person, however, avoids such sacrifices. He takes directly to Krishna consciousness and thereby prepares himself to return to Godhead. Impersonalist commentators on the Bhagavad-Gita unreasonably assume that Brahman takes the form of Jiva in the material world. And to substantiate this, they refer to chapter 15, verse 7 of the Gita. But in this verse, the Lord also speaks of the living entity as, quote, an eternal fragment of myself, unquote. The fragment of God, the living entity, may fall down into the material world, but the Supreme Lord, Achyuta, never falls down. Therefore, this assumption that the Supreme Brahman assumes the form of Jiva is not acceptable. It is important to remember that in Vedic literature, Brahman, the living entity, is distinguished from Para-Brahman, the Supreme Lord. So, this is a very interesting verse. We've all heard the word karma, and there's, people joke about it. Yeah, my karma ran over your dogma, man. Sorry about that, We joke about it. Or we think about, someone has really good karma, someone like Bill Gates or Taylor Swift, or, take your diva or, stars or whatever. Okay, they have very good karma. But what really is karma? And it's described right here. This is a very profound verse. Action pertaining to the development of the material bodies of the living entities is called karma. Okay, so when you do something, there is a reaction. There is a consequence. There's something. You're in the park and you have that merry-go-round thing, and what goes around comes around, right? So whatever you do, any activity, doesn't matter what it is going to be judged according to the quality and the intent. So people do all kinds of things. Sometimes we try to enjoy, we go somewhere or do something, we want to possess something, maybe want to, whatever it might be, to find enjoyment. Okay. But at the same time, mixed in with that, there are all kinds of other things that are part of that. Okay. So, even driving down the street, you might hit some poor unfortunate creature that ran across the road. Uh-oh. That's not good, right? So you get some reaction. No matter who or where you are, there's nothing that you can do in this world that doesn't have some downside, right? Even with the best intentions. They say the road to hell is paved with the best intentions, right? So the intent, everything is looked at because we are being observed. There are higher beings that we cannot see that observe our life the same way we might observe some ants. Maybe you have some laboratory and back in the day we had an ant farm. Anybody had an ant farm? To the ant farm, the 2 sheets of glass, and you put some sand in there, and then you introduce some ants, and so you can observe them. Their lifespan is maybe a few weeks, right? So they have no idea that you're observing them. The same way we're not aware that in higher planets there are these demigods who observe and arrange for all of our everything that happens in our life. Okay, so if you want to move your eyelid, there's a demigod in charge of that. If you want to evacuate, there's a demigod in charge of that. And everything that we're doing is facilitated by someone because we have no idea how it's happening. Right? Do you know how your food's being digested? The exact mechanism, how it's happening? I asked the doctor once. He didn't know. He said, he just put the food in here and it comes out there, and he had no idea. So how is this happening? We don't even think about it. Right? There's so many things that we're not aware of. Okay, so by good fortune, by the mercy of Krishna, 5,000 years ago, Krishna spoke to his friend Arjuna. And this was written as the Song of God, what we're reading from today. It was a conversation, took about 45 minutes between Krishna and his friend Arjuna. But the real target for the conversation is us. Okay, for people everywhere in the future for all time. So this is what we are, the information we are getting from a superior source. Okay, so Krishna's talking to Arjuna, but he's really talking to us. So he's explaining that anything that you do, okay, is karma, is leading to the development of your future body. That means we are all today, our body is a manifestation of our karma accumulated from past existence. We don't know what it was. We don't remember. We don't remember what we were in a previous time. And in fact, there are so many things that we're unaware of. Okay, now, just imagine we're in this world, and what is our motive? What's the aim of life? The aim of life is to be happy, to enjoy, right? That's what we're all looking for, right? What do we go about our activities to do? We're not looking for suffering, unless maybe you're some kind of a, I don't know what to call those people that torture themselves, but The idea is that we want to find happiness. Okay. But the one thing that the pretext of the whole existence here is that we want to enjoy our way, right? Like the Frank Sinatra, my way, right? Do things my way. And the idea of including someone in our enjoyment might include maybe our family or some friends or a girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever it might be, even having a walk with your dog. Okay. But the one thing that we have excluded is the Lord. Okay? Kind of like the elephant in the room that no one sees. But there has to be an elephant because nothing goes on without it. And that elephant is God. We can't exist without him. We are his parts and parcels. But a long time ago, we decided that we wanted to be God. Just like chip off the old block, right? Krishna is the supreme person. What does Krishna do? He's being served and loved by everyone. So it's like, well, how come he's getting all the attention? What about me? Why can't I have that position? And as soon as we have that desire, then we have to have a place to fulfill that desire. And voila, here we are in the material world. And the idea here is that I shall become the Lord of all I survey. Right? Only thing is, you're also thinking the same thing. And so, like King of the Hill, no, I'm God. No, I'm God. Right? I this is mine. No, this is mine. Right? In Kashmir, the coveted place between India and Pakistan. Right? No, it's mine. No, it's mine. So now we fight and die over this tract of land that does not belong to either of you. It belongs to God. Okay. So, in our ignorance, we are trying to enjoy. We are ignoring, or we are unaware. I hate to use the word ignorance because it has such a negative connotation, right? If I call you ignorant, that's like kind of insulting. But I just say a different word. Well, you're unaware. And so, in order to set things right, we have to be aware that we are not only not alone, but that our purpose of life, to enjoy, is we're going about it the wrong way. And we're kind of entangling ourselves in this world because of an inordinate desire to enjoy separate from God. That is basically our problem. And it takes a little bit of, it takes initial faith, but it also requires a kind of change of heart, a kind of, turn over a new leaf sort of thing, because we're accustomed to enjoy with this body. What else have we got, right? Whatever satisfies my senses, back in the day we used to say, if it feels good, do it. Well, is that the best thing? Or maybe not. Okay. So we're living in a situation where we're very carefully controlled, even though we don't see it. We don't really think of it this way. Yeah, there's the Jiminy Cricket, don't do this or don't do that, right? We kind of know within ourselves what we should do and what we shouldn't do. But beyond that, sometimes we think something's okay to do that actually isn't. Before I joined Krishna consciousness, I was a staunch meat eater. I didn't think you could live without eating meat. Oh my goodness. and it's there in the supermarket, it's all wrapped up real nice, and you know, your mom gives it to you. But when I met the devotees, they explained why I should be vegetarian. And I had to agree. Why? You're eating some living entity that had to die for you, just so you can taste the flesh. Why you give trouble to some living entity? So from that day forward, I stopped eating meat. I didn't know how to cook. Okay? But I didn't. In the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, I kind of know this isn't right, but everyone else is doing it, right? So we may think, I'm a good person. I don't do anything wrong. I don't hurt anybody, right? And if I have illicit relations with my girlfriend, what's the problem there? But we don't realize that there are rules, and unfortunately, there's kind of a zero tolerance policy. Okay? We're doing things that we shouldn't do, and then wondering why we're suffering. Right? Why do good things happen to bad people? Why do bad things happen to good people? Okay? So we need to understand, as human beings, what's going on, right? And what's it all about, Alfie? Right? What's really this world all about? And that's the great fortune that we've been given by Srila Prabhupada, who came here to teach us the real thing, the Bhagavad-Gita as it is. Not somebody's interpretation, not somebody's ideas taken from the Bhagavad-Gita. For example, you may remember there was a movie a couple of years ago. It was called The Legend of Bagger Vance. Anybody remember that movie? Okay. It was a book written. And I thought it was written back in the 1920s, but no, it was written somewhere in the 1990s. But the scenario, the scene is back in the 1920s. Okay. So that book was inspired from Bhagavad-Gita. But it's not Bhagavad-Gita, if you ever watched the movie. It may have been inspiring to someone. And there are many versions of Bhagavad-Gita. You can go to a bookstore and there's hundreds of them. But every single one of them, practically, is written according to what the author thinks that the meaning is, right? And if you ask scholars, they actually admit it's a great mystery. But Arjuna understood in 45 minutes. And Arjuna was not a Brahmin. Arjuna was not an intellectual. He didn't come from the university. He was not from the Brahminical community. Okay. But he was a devotee of Krishna, and he was Krishna's friend. So Krishna gave him this knowledge of Bhagavad Gita, in fact made him a spiritual master. And Arjuna surrendered and did what Krishna asked him to do. Now, if you read Bhagavad Gita, in the beginning, Arjuna did not want to fight. Who does not know what the background of Bhagavad Gita is? You've all heard of the story of Bhagavad Gita. I think everyone knows. So Arjuna decided, I'm not going to fight. And he came up with all kinds of nice moral, ethical reasons why he shouldn't fight. All very good arguments. But Krishna had another plan. And Krishna said, if you want to, do it your way, fine. Okay, you want to run off to the forest and people will say in very unkind words what kind of a, wimp you are, what kind of a, mamby-pamby. Okay? You've already attained a position of being practically the greatest warrior on earth. And what are they going to tell about you now? They're going to call you a coward. They're laughing. They're snickering right now. Because the conversation was going on like this. Like we're sitting here, and you're listening to me. If I had a loud voice, maybe you could do without the microphone. But the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna was also heard by the soldiers on the other side. They're like, well, hell yeah, we'll win the fight without, firing a shot. What a bunch of idiots. So Krishna was inspiring Arjuna to fight. Because Krishna was some kind of a warmonger? I don't think so. Krishna had another plan. Krishna did not want these demons to rule the earth. Krishna wanted his devotees, Arjuna and Yudhisthira, Bhimasen, and Nakula and Sahadev, 5 brothers. Krishna wanted them, devotees, to rule the earth. And of course it was their rightful heir. They were rightful heirs to the throne. But more than that, okay, the context of the Bhagavad-Gita is that the Mahabharata, which is a huge epic, kind of like War and Peace, and the Bhagavad-Gita is one little sliver out of this whole epic, okay? The reason it was done that way is to bring the interest, because in this day and age, people are more interested in stories than hearing, complicated esoteric philosophy. So in order to bring people in, what's going on? And all of a sudden, boom, Bhagavad-Gita, right? What's it Krishna's first things Krishna said to Arjuna? Arjuna says, okay, now I'm surrendered to you. What is my duty? I'm confused. My mouth's running dry. I'm basically I'm catatonic right now, and I have to make a decision. So enlighten me. Now I'm your friend, but now I'm your disciple. Okay, so what's the first thing that Krishna said? He said, Arjuna, you're talking like a fool. Sounds like a rap song. Okay, he says, what you're speaking, learned words, okay, you're speaking big words, but the basis of your argument is ridiculous. And then Krishna starts talking about the spiritual truths of life, the things that we here today in this room need to hear, and what everyone on this planet needs to hear. Okay? The world, if you haven't found out already, is completely mad. Who can argue that? Okay? Like if you could keep a body alive but cut the head off, right? And sometimes they do with the chickens and they run around, okay. Because no one has any understanding of who they are and who God is and what our relationship with God is and what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do. And I'm sorry to say that there are many wonderful religious organizations on the earth, but unfortunately the message is not being delivered properly. And many of the leaders are unable to follow what they're saying. My intent is not to criticize anyone, because anyone who starts on the spiritual path will soon be confronted with all of the unwanted things, all the sinful things, because we're declaring war on the illusory energy. Okay, what's happening is that we are under an illusory energy which we call Maya. The Christians might call it the devil or whatever, but the idea is that in order to allow us to try to enjoy, we have to be blind to this elephant in the room. We have to be blind to what's going on actually. For example, if you want to go to a movie, right? You go to the movies, do you see the guy behind the camera? Do you ever see the guy holding the microphone? It's on the long boom, so they can pick up the sound. You see the guys in the background, waiting around, waiting for the shoot to end. If you've ever been an extra or on a set, there's all kinds of people standing around out of sight, right? You don't want to see those people. You don't want to see what the arrangement is. Okay, you just want to be absorbed in the plot and the hero and what's going on, right? You don't want to be bothered with all of this information that is superfluous to your purpose. Okay, so if we want to enjoy in the world of matter, then it's better we don't understand anything what's going on. Just go for it, like animals. Animals have no idea how it's going on. They have no idea how their food is being supplied, how the elephant is eating, tons and tons of food. Who made that arrangement? They don't think about it, right? So if you want to enjoy in the world of matter, you have to be in illusion, okay? And it's a package deal, right? If somebody throws a blanket over your head, right? You just don't understand anything. So we're under this kind of a whammy, this illusory energy, okay? And Krishna talks about this whole arrangement in the Bhagavad-Gita. There are 3 modes of nature: goodness, and passion, and ignorance. So these 3 modes of nature are mixing in different ways. A little bit of this, a little bit of that, just like making colors in a rainbow, right? So a little more passion, a little less ignorance, right? So, and different activities that we do, and different foods that we eat, and places that we go, and the different kinds of association that we have, the different kinds of faith, what kind of gods we worship or not. It's all tied to these 3 modes of nature. And this Supreme Lord, Krishna, says, I'm in control. Just like a puppet master, right? A little more passion, right? In the animal kingdom, more passion, that'd be like a lion or a tiger. Mode of goodness, more like a cow, very peaceful, doesn't hurt anybody, right? Mode of ignorance, some of the animals, all animals are heavily in the mode of ignorance. They cannot understand what's going on. But sleep is in the mode of ignorance, for example. Intoxication is also mode of ignorance. If you're in the mode of goodness, it's likely you'll be learning something, maybe going to school. Mode of passion might be, driving fast cars, looking for, association with the opposite sex to enjoy, right? So all of these different modes of nature keep us in illusion because we don't understand ourself. It's just like someone who has amnesia. You don't remember who I am. Oh my. We're all every single one of us has this illusion that I am this body, right? And this body, being absorbed in bodily consciousness, means I don't remember who I actually am. And what we actually are is something completely different. It's like playing what do they call, masquerade. The masquerade, they put a little mask in front of their face, and I'm so-and-so, or I'm Napoleon, I'm, whatever. We all have this conception of ourselves based on our body. I'm an American, my father was an engineer, I was born in this year, and, this is what I'm into. Oh, nice to meet you, you're from New York, or whatever, And we all base this conception of ourselves on the body, right? Oh, he's from India, right? Oh, no, he's from Scandinavia, or whatever. Or that's a dog, that's a bird, and so on and so on. The real truth is that we are all souls. We are a pilot, or actually a co-pilot, in this body. And the body is simply a machine, a vehicle to fulfill our desires. If you're really into surfing and really into being in the water, scuba diving, whatever, well, there are animals that are better suited. Okay, they don't need a diving suit or a snorkel or scuba gear. There are lots and lots of fishes out there that enjoy very nicely, and they're not bothered about self-realization or anything like that. They just, unfortunately, they have to chase their food and run from their enemies. They're always on the run. No peace. Sometimes they look like they're enjoying, like the dolphins. They're surfing very nicely, along with the surfers, right? So everyone has a different kind of body, but within the heart of every living entity is the soul. Inside of our heart is my self. And next to us is the super self. The super self is the manifestation of God within us. And Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead on the altar, okay, his representative is himself within us. And self-realization means to understand our relationship with the Supreme Being who is within us. But in order not to disturb our activities of enjoyment, he keeps silent. For a pure devotee, someone who has no desire for material enjoyment, he can have a relationship with God and converse with God like we're conversing here. And that is Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada did not come here for any type of enjoyment. He came here to spread Krishna consciousness. Even from the very beginning, he was having Rath Yatra festivals as a child. Okay, Srila Prabhupada did not come here to enjoy. And Srila Prabhupada had a personal relationship with Krishna, which we can also have, and that's what he's preaching, that we can have that kind of relationship. So, what is this Krishna consciousness movement? What is the aim of Krishna consciousness? It is to enlighten us and also to help us engage in activities which are not of the nature of sense gratification. In other words, spiritual activities. So what are spiritual activities? Activities in relation with Krishna. Okay? So we have this body, right? And we have our desires and things that we like. Okay? We can use those things in the service of Krishna. Just like Arjuna was fighting. It was his thing. Right? There are some people who just love to fight. You know, they go down to the gym or whatever. You know, they just love. Or somebody joins the military or becomes a policeman or something like that. They enjoy, you know, some physical activity, or they like to be in charge or things like that. So you can use that for Krishna, which is exactly what Krishna told Arjuna to do. He did not advise Arjuna to imitate a Brahmin. Does anybody not know what a Brahmin is? A Brahmin is intellectual class. In India, they have, it's understood in the caste system, there are Brahmins. There's a class of people who are intellectual. Okay. But Arjuna was not a Brahmin. He was not from that class. So Arjuna was doing his thing for Krishna. Okay. For a Brahmin to take up weapons in a fight, it's not allowed. It's not his nature anyway. Okay? And neither is it the nature of someone who is in doing manual labor. They don't have the fighting spirit. We found that out very poignantly in the Vietnam War, where they would draft people that had no desire. Okay, and so you put them in that situation. Okay, now go out and, you know, do some recon, they call it. See where the enemy is. So they get in the rowboat and they row around the corner, pull out a marijuana cigarette, and, you know, and then come back and say, "Oh, I wouldn't see anybody." They don't have the desire because it's not their nature. Okay, so whatever you do, Krishna says, whatever you do, whatever you offer, any charity that you give, should be an offering for me. Okay? Giving charity to the poor, that's good. That's in the mode of goodness. That's not transcendental. There's karma for that. Okay? And the karma is, you give charity to somebody, guess what? Next life, the situation is reversed. What goes around comes around. So then you have to be born again to get the charity that you give to somebody else to get it back. As ridiculous as that sounds, that's actually the fact. Okay, so there are many things that we need to understand, and it's all right here in the Bhagavad-Gita. And if you don't have a Bhagavad-Gita as it is, get one. because this is the most important literature in the world, which is why we distribute literature sometimes in the airports or whatever. As human beings, it's our duty to understand these things. Just like when you live in the society, you have to understand what the laws are. You can't make up your law at home. Well, you can, but as soon as you walk out on the street, if you break the law, then, well, you could plead ignorance, but that's not really a good excuse. As human beings, we need this. We need to understand who we actually are and to begin to dovetail our activities in the service of Krishna. Okay? Suppose you're a businessman and you're making lots of money. So you give some money to Krishna. Okay? And that actually purifies. Because sometimes we do things, little shady things to make money. Sometimes you have to kind of, take advantage of people, and, there's some, bad, what they call juju, what do you want to call it, in making a lot of money. Okay? So if you make a lot of money, you should give back. And the best way to give back is to help spread Krishna consciousness. Okay? Maybe whatever you do, maybe you like to make flower arrangements. We need people to make nice vases. You can see on the altar, someone's very expert doing that for Krishna. Whatever you do, whatever your thing is, try to find a way that you can use it to glorify Krishna. You like to cook? Offer your food to Krishna. Okay? Because ultimately, what we're looking for is love. Right? We all want to be loved. And unfortunately, our relationships aren't perfect in this world. We're not Krishna. Okay? I may try to do something for you, and you try to do something for me. I can't reciprocate perfectly. But Krishna can, because Krishna knows everyone. He's sitting right there with you. And actually, our nature is to be happy all the time. Why aren't we happy all the time? Because we think we're this body, and we're worried about, what I'm going to eat, what's going to happen next, what I have to do. We have so many difficulties. But even while we're in this body, we can begin to cultivate our relationship with Krishna. And that's the point of Krishna consciousness. So pat yourself on the back for coming here. Okay? Thank yourself for coming. And if you have not, this is your first time, this is a life-changing experience. Okay? I remember the day I walked into the temple for the first time. And my life completely changed. Okay? So anyone who comes to Krishna's temple has a great advantage. Krishna will help you. He'll make all kinds of arrangements. He'll help you in all kinds of ways. Your life will become blessed. That's a fact. So for y'all taking your time to come to the Krishna temple, find a parking place, carve out some time when you could be watching TV or going somewhere or whatever. But you've come here, and Krishna has arranged for each and every one of us to be here today. And so, thank yourself, and thank Krishna, and thank Srila Prabhupada and the devotees for giving us the opportunity to come together and hear something about Krishna. So are there any questions or? Yeah.
Is karma related with the body or the self?
Okay. Is the karma have to do with our body or our self? Okay. Karma has to do with this temporary body. Our self is completely different. We are a conscious entity. We are consciousness. So we are conscious of our body. We, as individuals, don't have really anything to do with it other than that we are inside of it. So one of the first spiritual ABCs is that we are not this body. It is not easy to understand that because we are conditioned. We've lived many lives before. We've lived as all kinds of living entities. We've actually been in all the different species of animals. Been there and done that. So the what they call evolution is mistaken, according to the Darwinian theory, is mistaken. We are the eternal living entity, part of Krishna, just like a sun ray is a part of the sun. So our position is that we are the conscious entity, infinitesimal. Krishna is infinite, we are infinitesimal. So we are conscious of our body. Okay, I have pets at home. They are conscious of their body. I'm not conscious of their body, they're not conscious of mine, but Krishna is conscious of everyone's body. So Krishna is everywhere and understands everything, but we are very minute. We are only conscious of our body. So our body is changing, but we're the same. I'm the same person I was when I was just a little baby. Pull out those old baby pictures that your mother's been keeping all these years. You don't look the same. You look similar, but if you could remember back that far, I remember a lot of things when I was a kid. I mean, maybe you all do too. But the body's changed, but we're still the same. Okay? In a couple of months, I'm going to go to the 50th high school reunion. First one. I don't know why, but anyway. So, I have those high school pictures, at graduation day. I'm the same person. I just graduated high school last week, right? But our bodies are changing, okay? And I found out to my chagrin that on the back of the information form that I got was a list of people that have been lost and have passed away. There was an old girlfriend in there. Oh my. Yikes. Anybody can pass away at any time. You walk out today, people have actually been killed out here on the corner. So you don't know when it's your time. Okay, so there's a kind of, what do they call it? Urgency. There's an urgency for Krishna consciousness. And that's something that when I get old, Prahlad Maharaj said it from the very beginning, the children should learn. So, anyway, more questions? Again, yes. Hare Krishna.
Wonderful, wonderful. I just have to comment on this thing. When you said that Prabhupada came here, and not for his enjoyment, but didn't he enjoy getting people to chant Hare Krishna, and going into bliss and joining and stuff?
Oh, absolutely. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. Did you all hear that? Didn't Prabhupada enjoy seeing devotees coming to the temple and preaching and seeing how people got enlightened? Sure. That's real enjoyment. That's real enjoyment. I mean, when people come to the temple for the first time, that's new blood. On any devotees who've been around for a while, it's like that's like, I died and went to heaven. Here's somebody I can preach to who's interested or whatever. Seeing people being enlightened, if you preach to somebody, not only they get enlightened, but you do too. Okay, you get it. It is my greatest privilege to sit here and speak. I haven't been able to do this for a very long time. It is a great privilege to speak on behalf of Krishna. And if you preach to somebody, I guarantee you will float for the rest of the day. Right? You'll be very happy, and they'll be happy too. Okay? So that's the way it works. Lord Chaitanya traveled around India, and he would just go up to somebody and embrace them. It'd be, instantly become a pure devotee, and then, it spread like wildfire. Okay, we can't imitate that, but Srila Prabhupada came, one person, uninvited, no money, all he had was some books. Have you seen the original Bhagavatams? It's not exactly, Simon and Schuster, okay? Printed on some pretty, archaic machines. That Prabhupada had to collect the money to buy the paper. And then when the books were published, he would try to distribute them to some dignitaries and political figures and so on and so on. And he comes to America with no money on a steamship about, like the size of what we call a fishing boat, hardly very small ship. Suffered 2 heart attacks on the way over, and was he going to start a worldwide movement? Practically homeless in New York. Okay, there's lots of crazy homeless people in New York, claiming, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And Prabhupada would talk to people and say, there's a great movement, so many thousands of devotees and temples and schools and books. It's just time is separating, that's all. Can you imagine that? And if you have any doubts about Srila Prabhupada, you should read the Lilamrita, the biography of Srila Prabhupada, how he came here, and the background of why he came. Why would somebody come at 70 years old to start a worldwide movement? What? Uninvited, unwelcome, right? Oh, he had so many people waiting for him to come. No. Well, he had so much money, he had nothing. But Srila Prabhupada came and blazed a trail. Okay? I've heard people say, he's in the right place at the right time. I don't think so. 1965, who's he got to preach to? Okay, if it feels good, do it. Hippies, drug addicts. That's all he had to preach to. He had big plans, but he had to do what he had to do. And he blazed the trail. So now that we know something, whenever you meet someone, try to tell them what you know about Krishna. And you'll be very happy, and the person you talk to will be very happy too. And try to give them a book if you can. So, thank you very much. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.